and welcome to Elefant and Roses. My name is KT. Today we're going to be making peanut butter brownies. It's a different kind of brownie than most people are used to. There's normally the traditional, which is the chocolate slash cocoa powder brownie that everybody puts everything and anything into. Then there's usually the blondie, and a blondie is different than a normal brownie because it has no chocolate or cocoa in it. It's just, it gets its flavor from vanilla and brown sugar. Peanut butter brownie, on the other hand, gets all of its flavor from peanut butter. Peanut butter brownie is topped with a peanut butter frosting, so it's ultimate peanut butter land. So I hope you enjoy, and I will jump right into the recipe, and please let me know down below if you have any questions. If you like this video, please leave me a like and a comment. If there's some other treat that you'd like to see made, please leave me a comment down below. I'm always glad to find recipes and try them out with. I hope you enjoy this recipe. So we're going to start, and I'm going to walk you through all the ingredients. So the first thing you're going to need is 3/4 of a cup of peanut butter, and I have all of mine pre-measured out. Makes it easier, especially if you're a new baker, to do it this way. So I have 3/4 cup peanut butter, and then next to that there's 6 tablespoons of shortening and 6 tablespoons of butter. And then for sugar, you're going to need 1 1/4 to 2 1/4 cups of sugar. Why the difference in sugar? If you don't like very sweet things and you want more of the peanut butter flavor, go with the 1 1/4. If you want things more sweet and still have the peanut butter flavor, go with the 2 1/4. And then you can play with it from there and figure out which one works. So try it one way the first time, and then try it the other way the next time, and then, you know, figure out what's the middle ground for what you like. And then next is 2 eggs, and then vanilla. And then in this bowl is, and it's going to be 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And in here is 1 1/2 cups all-purpose flour. And there's 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. And then the optional item is 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I know a lot of bakers insist you have to have salt, but I've always found it's an optional item. Okay, so how does this work? So the first step we're going to do is we're going to cream the peanut butter and the butter together. And you can do this by hand or with a stand mixer. I have a stand mixer behind me, so I'm going to put it on the stand mixer quick, and then that'll just speed this process up a little bit. So I'll be back in just a second once I've got this mixed on the stand mixer behind me. Okay, so I'm going to scrape that beater bar off really quick. And if you don't have a stand mixer, again, you can definitely mix this by hand. I just always find it's a little bit faster. If you do have a stand mixer, you can also use a freehand mixer. This is the most work, is beating these two together. And if you're new to baking, the big thing is remember to scrape your sides a lot as you're doing any project for baking. Brownies are a great one to start with, I always think, for teaching people how to bake. Just because it's really rewarding when you're done, but it's also, they're pretty simple recipes baking wise. Okay, so to this, we're going to put in our sugar, and we're going to cream this together. So far, pretty simple steps. You just want to make sure you get this mixed in really, really good, and always scrape down your sides. And to this now, you're going to add your eggs. And one of the big things to remember with the eggs is always crack them in a separate bowl. I know sometimes you see them, professional chefs do it and stuff, but you want to do that. And I always crack it here on the counter. And the reason for cracking your eggs in a separate bowl is in case you have a bad egg. And that way, and also in case you get eggshell, like I just did, then you can just pull it out really fast and easy. And then you can just mix it in. That simple. And then the next thing you're going to put in is a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm getting used to the overhead shots. Hopefully that helps and makes it easier for you to see what I'm doing a little bit faster and easier. And then our final step is we're going to add the flour. And in here already, I'm going to give this a quick stir. I've got the baking soda pre-measured into the flour. And this is 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And remember, if you're a new baker, there's a difference. There's baking soda and there's baking powder. This recipe is calling for baking powder. So make sure you're looking for that. And the baking powder is what's going to make your brownies rise. So far it's really simple, easy recipe for a new person to baking can do. And if you love peanut butter, you're going to love these. The backstory to this is I have 4 children. One of my children, there's no such thing as too much chocolate. They love chocolate. But I have another child that hates chocolate. Like literally hates chocolate. Won't eat it at all. And so peanut butter brownies came in handy because then I have chocolate brownies for the chocolate lover and I have peanut butter brownies for my peanut lover. So I'm going to slide this off to the side for a second. If you're new to baking, you probably have not heard this trick, but when you cut up your 6 tablespoons of butter, save the wrapper. The wrapper you can use to butter your pan. It doesn't take much. You just need that little bit left over on the inside of your butter wrapper, and that's all you do. I pre-buttered this one, but I just wanted to show you. It's this simple. And that's all you got to do. And then you can throw this away. But that's all you need to do, and you don't get your hands icky and stuff. And you get just the right amount of butter on the pan. Now we're going to drop everything in. As you can tell, you're going to have very thick dough. And you want to scrape your bowls. I grew up with a grandmother that would drill that into my head from the time I was little. So you want to make sure you get it all good and scraped. And now you're just going to spread it out in your pan. You can use, if you find it too hard to use like a rubber scraper like I'm using, you can use the back of a spoon, your fingers, a glass, whatever works easiest for you. People who have done this a long time baking, everybody's got their own method. If you're new to baking, just trial and error until you get a method that works better for you. But you want this relatively flat when you go in. It'll spread out a little bit in the oven, not a lot. So it's kind of important to make sure it's as even as possible. You can use a flat scraper too. You can get a butter knife in here if you want. I forgot to bring over a butter knife, so that's why I'm using the rubber spatula. And then we'll spread some of this. I'm going to use my fingers to finish it off, because sometimes that just works the best. Especially into the corners where you want it just nice and flat. Okay, now to this, you're going to put it in a 350-degree oven, and you're going to want to watch it, especially if you don't know if your oven heats hot. I put it in for 20 minutes. Take a fork, a toothpick, poke it in the center. Make sure that you don't get dough that comes out with it. Don't bake it longer than 30 minutes on 350 degrees. If you have a cold oven, it usually takes about 30 minutes. If you have a really hot oven, it takes about 20 minutes. So I will be back in a few minutes and we'll make the frosting while this finishes baking. While the brownies are baking, we're gonna make the frosting. So the frosting is a pretty simple recipe. We're gonna use 1 cup of peanut butter, a whole stick of butter, which is a half a cup. We're gonna use 2 cups of powdered sugar, and we've got 3 tablespoons of milk, and we're gonna mix all this together. Just like before, I'm gonna use the stand mixer behind me to mix the peanut butter and the butter together. And if you want to mix it by hand, you're welcome to. For speed and time, I'm just going to do it really quickly in the blender behind me. And I always keep my wrappers. I'm also using room softened butter. You can use it cold straight from the fridge, but that usually means it takes a little bit longer for you to be able to whip it together, especially if you're doing it by hand. So that's why I use room softened butter. You don't want to overly soften because otherwise you're just going to have the runny frosting, and that's not good either. So, okay, so I've got the butter and the peanut butter all mixed together. Frosting is even faster and simpler than the brownie mix. And if you're a new baker, that's always nice to make a nice fast thing. This works really good if you're going to like a picnic, or you've been invited to a party or a get together or something. You usually can get this put together pretty quickly. The biggest thing is letting those brownies cool before you add this frosting, because otherwise it just melts everywhere, which isn't fun to have. I'm going to finish mixing this a little bit because I still have a few butter blobs in there that didn't get mixed in. Okay, now this is where I mix in half of my powdered sugar. So a cup of powdered sugar. So that's about half of it. Now I'm going to pour in the milk, which again, this is 3 tablespoons of milk. I use whole milk. I grew up on whole milk. I was taught to bake by the ladies in my family using all whole milk, creams, butter, all of that good stuff. So I still use all of those items to this day when I bake. I find that the taste is much better when I do that. And now that that's incorporated, I just add the other cup of powdered sugar, and then just fold it in. If you don't want any lumps or anything like that, you could use a strainer to strain your powdered sugar through. In my family, nobody really fusses, so they're too busy enjoying. And most of the time I can get most of them just pushed out. If you're a new baker, just push it up against the side as you're stirring it. And most of them will come out. I found through the years some powdered sugars are more lumpy than others. Not sure why, but I just go with the flow and just take my time and make sure I push them all out. And that is peanut butter frosting. So I will come back as soon as the brownies have cooled, and I will frost them for you and then show you the final finished product. I hope you're enjoying this. If you like this video, please like and subscribe below. This is the cooled peanut butter brownies. When you pull it out of the oven, you'll see that it's as high as this on the edge, and then as it cools, it sinks down in the middle, and it's just ice cold now. It's not going to burn anybody or anything. So that's what you want, is a nice light golden brown color, and you'll see the edges start pulling away a little bit, and that's perfect. Then you're ready to frost. I have the brownie, I have the, not brownie, I have the peanut butter frosting ready to go. And you can use a spatula to spread it. You can use spoons, whatever works best for you. If you're new to baking, it's trial and error to figure out what method you like best. But I'm going to show you how you do it. A lot of people just take this bowl and just dump it. And you're going to end up with a disaster, because one end's going to be really thick and one spot's going to have like no frosting. And this brownie crust is really fragile, so it's going to want to crumble and move around on you. So what I do is I just scoop it out and I put just blobs of frosting. And I put another, just put frosting blobs all over the place, so you get a good even mixture across the whole thing. This whole batch is just one batch of brownies, so don't be worrying about, having leftovers or something. That's the worst, is having leftover frosting, and then you're running around trying to figure out what to do with it. I don't know if anybody else has that problem. I do, and because my family doesn't really like frosting that much. They'll go for it once in a while, but for the most part, they'd rather not have frosting. So I tend to want to try and use it all up at one time. So, and this does put a lot of frosting, but it's really good. What the brownies taste like. When I'm done spreading the frosting, I'll cut one and show you. It's like, one of my kids says, it's the bottom of the brownie is like a peanut butter cookie, where it's, that crispy golden, that buttery flavor of a cookie. And then it's chewy in the middle, like a brownie, like you would expect a brownie to taste like. And then the frosting makes you think of peanut butter pie. I know, quite the description of a brownie, but that's the best way to describe it. And then once I get all the frosting out, I just start smushing it around. As you see, it just wants a lift. And that's because my frosting's been sitting a little while. But just, trial and error, figure out the best method for you. For me, it's usually just smush it flat. Try not to just lift with it stuck, because it'll just pull it right up. But trial and error, and you'll get it just perfect. This frosting is too heavy to pipe, so don't try to pipe it, because I know some people have tried to do that before with either a piping bag or the zippy bag cheat method. You just have to be really patient with this frosting. It's worth it. The flavor is absolutely phenomenal. So that's one reason I can get my family to eat this frosting, is because they like the taste of it. So I'm going to be really curious if you make this, what you think the flavor tastes like to you, because I know what my family thinks it tastes like. So I'm curious to know what other people think. I know what friends say too, but really curious what other people think of it. And again, if there's recipes that you had as a child and you've lost and you don't know how to find it, drop me a comment down below. You never know, I may have that recipe or be able to know where to find it. I was raised in a family of a bunch of bakers and cooks, and their average birth year was 1922 or before. So I have all of their their recipe card books and recipe card boxes, and they were famous back then that you could get a lot of recipes out of magazines. If you go through, like, if you ever find like an old McCall's magazine from like before World War II, they're just a treasure trove. And you can get some really phenomenal ones. I have this amazing, they call it a tart recipe. But the pastry is, oh my gosh, it's out of this world. And it was just in a McCall's magazine. I found it because I was looking for something when it came to sewing, and it came across it. I was like, would this really work? And so I tried it, and my family just went crazy for it. They thought it was the greatest. So, as you can tell, just playing with it and stuff, you can get it to go. I'm going to cut one of the bars. So you can cut this into 24 or 12, depending on your family. If you're going to a party, an event, etc., I say cut it into 24 because that way other people can try other people's food. And a really good way to cut these, I'm going to cut mine into 12 today because it's just going to family. So I cut down the middle, and then you're going to cut 1/3, and then you're going to cut another third, and then you're going to do the same over here. So actually, I'm not going to get 12. Whoops, I didn't do the math right. Sorry about that. So, no, maybe I will. Got to do the math again in my head. Sorry, it's late in the day, so my brain's not working the greatest. So I have 6 rows. So I actually am making 24 squares. My brain isn't working so great this late in the day. Anybody else have brain fog at late in the day? So you go down the middle again. Go down the middle again. And then you go down the middle again. And that makes 24. And grab my spoon because it wants to lift the frosting off. Once they set, the frosting doesn't come off either. It's just because they're so fresh. And you should be using a better knife than a butter knife. So we'll pop one out so you can see what they look like. And I'll move this out of the way so it's easier to show. So this is a peanut butter brownie. And if you look, you can see the layers. I'll put this up closer to the camera. So the bottom gets this nice golden crust. Oh, am I gonna do this? I'm new to this, so please excuse my lovely camera work. The bottom gets this nice crunchy, then you can see the chewy part, and then there's the frosting. And so put it under there so you can see it a little better. You can even see my fingerprint. But yeah, they're really good. Let's see if I can get a good shot. There you go. And so I hope you enjoyed that recipe. You can make variations of this very easily. If you wanted to not have complete peanut butter, you could change out the frosting and put a chocolate frosting on. If you want, you could drizzle some caramel sauce on the brownies before you put the frosting and spread it out really thin, and then put the frosting on top, and then you get a caramel layer in there. That's always really good. You can swap out a chocolate frosting. I've made it where I've made the peanut butter brownies and put a caramel sauce and then put a chocolate frosting. That's always a winner too. So once you have the basic batter down, you can change it up as many different ways as you want. You can put chocolate chips over the top of it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me a like and a comment down below and let me know if there's any recipes you'd like me to do next. If you're wondering about my top, I did this myself. It's hand crocheted. In my next video after this one, I'll do a catch up on my crafts and what I've been making and sewing and knitting and crocheting, and this will be showcased in there. So please definitely tune in if you'd like to learn how I made this. I'm kind of proud of it. It's very comfortable for summer. So I hope you've had a wonderful day, and I'd love to have you come back again. So please definitely subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you're alerted when I put out the next video. Have a wonderful day and talk soon. Bye.